former Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty, is here.
In the building.
In the building with his New York
morning?
Jets green and everything.
I mean,
someone's got to support that team.
I don't know if this is New York Jets green or if this is money green. All I can say is business is booming.
Apologies.
Appreciate you, CC. Good looking out.
In Sam Darnold's case, it's both, and in Chris Canty's case, it's
And if
both.
you're a fan of the show, you know Chris Canty is a frequent visitor to the show. I just told my bosses we need more Chris Canty.
Hey,
Absolutely.
All right?
That's what I'm saying. Everybody needs more Chris Canty in their life.
There you go.
Okay.
You already know.
You guys,
Great
if you're
monster.
sliding into DMs,
Yeah, I'm going to slide him over in Nixie. Let's do that.
All right, yesterday we learned that Saints running back Mark Ingram was suspended 4 games after testing positive for an illegal substance. His agent said in a statement that Ingram was vigorously appealing the suspension and that Ingram took neither a performance-enhancing drug nor a substance nor an illegal substance. The league later issued a statement saying that Ingram's appeal had already been heard and denied. CeCe, let me start with you on this one. How big of a deal is Ingram's 4-game suspension for the Saints?
For the Saints, it's a big deal because he's a player that they didn't foresee something like this happening. When you have a roster, Bill Walsh talks about it, you know, you can have 5 bad guys, 5 edgy guys, 5 guys you might have a problem with their personality, what they do off the field.
5 guys you know might get suspended sometime.
Or might get into a fight, might do something questionable. But besides that, based on the ratio, 53-man roster, 8-10 guys on the practice squad, you can't really have more than that. When the Saints look at their roster, they think Mark Ingram is totally away from that. They think he's one of the true leaders, just like Drew Brees. So not only his influence on the locker room, but his influence that they felt like Alvin Kamara, his overall development, him partnered with Mark Ingram was critical for him to develop because this is the most productive Alvin Kamara has been. After 4 years of college, to come and have your career highs in the NFL, you just don't expect that. So Mark's impact on him on the field and in that locker room. I know Mark. I've been knowing him. I know his family. He works out with the same trainers at the same facility that we have for years. I have seen him, worked out beside him. This is not what I expect. But it's a big, big deal in the organization, and you have one of your frontline players, and he's going to miss a quarter of the season.
Wait, what you're saying, just for the audience that wasn't watching yesterday, you think that you don't believe that it was some sort of performance-enhancing drug. You're saying that it was what he says that it was.
Mark has not shown me the character that he would try to take HGH or some other type of steroid.
So it was a supplement or something.
Yeah, because the supplement, this is the way it happens. By accident, there's something in the labeling that's not in the labeling, that's in the can, that these guys are either taking for recovery, either for muscle build, or other things that they're taking. And because the lack of regulation, we see 4 or 5 guys a year that there's some mistake in the sampling, and there's something inside of there that is not allowed. It sends up a red flag, and a red flag for steroids is an automatic positive test.
Absolutely, CC. And the NFL tells you when you join that you are responsible for what you put in your body. So this is one of those things that Mark Ingram is kind of fallen into. And although there might be a therapeutic exemption for what he's taking, he didn't have that particular exemption. So that's why the NFL is holding him accountable. From an individual standpoint, this is not exactly the ideal situation for Mark Ingram because he's knocking on 30 years old and he's going into a contract year. So coming off of your second Pro Bowl, you want to be able to show that you can have another full season of production at that level so you can command the kind of dollars that you want on the open market. Looking at Alvin Kamara, CC, you hit the nail on the head. I think they're the perfect complement to one another. The skill sets, what they bring to the table. So there's going to be effect on his game as well. But taking a big picture view of this thing, the New Orleans Saints are going for it. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. That's why they traded a first-round pick in 2019 to move up to draft Marcus Davenport. They needed another pass rusher. They're gearing up to try to make another championship run with Drew Brees. And so when you consider the first 4 opponents, although it's not murderer's row with the defenses that they'll be facing, it's the Bucs, the Browns, the Falcons, and the Giants. It's 2 divisional opponents, one of them on the road.
Right.
So you don't want to put yourself in a hole early in the season and not having that ground game be with Drew Brees in that offensive passing game, that's going to affect this team. So I don't necessarily know that this is going to be a good situation for the Saints, missing a big part of their offense. 1,500 yards from scrimmage last year. I don't know that this is what they envision going into the 2018 season.
From a positive standpoint, if I'm Sean Payton, if I'm the general manager, if I'm Drew Brees, or any other player in that locker room, I like the early suspension. Just like Tom Brady a couple years ago, he misses 4 games to start the season. You have time to recover. You can have a bad month. in the NFL. You can't have a bad December, but you can have a bad September. So I like the suspension being early, and I like also that there's not a cloud above the team, which we saw with Dallas last year. You have other guys answering questions week after week. Well, is he going to be here? Is he not going to be here? The effect on the team and the role that those players take. So from a positive standpoint, I'm glad they're able to get it out the first 4 games of the season because it gives the Saints enough time that they can recover.
All right, so you made 2 points that exactly where my mind was, and I want to elaborate on them. One is the divisional opponent part of it. You play 6 games all year against your divisional opponents. He's going to miss a third of them. I understand you were going to be saying, oh, well, the Bucs were supposed to be good last year. The Bucs upgraded, they believe, their defense this year. They think Jameis will continue on the trajectory he was after year 2, as opposed to a more downward trajectory in year 3. So we can't say, oh, well, the Bucs will be an easy game. And we know how good the Falcons were at the tail end of last year, how close they were to winning, to advancing further in the postseason. Like, we can't discount how big of a game that is. That could be the game that decides the division winner, which, much like last year, could decide who has home field, or who gets a bye in the NFC. The other part of it is that trade on draft day. If you were watching the draft live, the Saints had given up so much to move up. The general consensus before the pick came in is, well, you'd only do this for a quarterback. Remember, it was, oh, they've got to be trading up right now to go get Lamar Jackson. We heard that the Saints like Lamar Jackson. You would never give up this year's first and next year's first for anything but a quarterback. Instead, they said, we are going for it right now. We're drafting something of a project pass rusher from UTSA because we think by the end of the year, he can be full go and be that final piece that we needed. Because if you remember last year, when they lost their star defensive end due to injury at the tail end of the season, that drastically hurt their defense. So for the
You can look at the Minnesota Vikings game. I mean, if you can get the quarterback on the ground and not let Case Keenum throw that pass, then you don't have to worry about that Minnesota Miracle.
And I know Philly fans be mad at me for saying this, but I think if the Saints play Philadelphia, even in Philadelphia, they got a great chance of winning that football game. Like, they were as good as any team in the league last year. Ingram was a big part of this. Now, this obviously is not as big of a deal as if Breeze was out 4 games. I don't even think it's as big of a deal as if Kamara was out 4 games. But it might be the next on that list. He might be the next most important skill position guy on their offense.
I would feel a lot less comfortable if it wasn't Sean Payton. Because now, with the suspension, he has all the training camp to be able to work on a game plan or how he's going to attack the NFL. And Sean Payton, to me, one of the best play callers, if not the best play caller we have in the NFL.
And here's what I'll say to that, CC. When you look at how this offense is built, everybody wants to point to the skill position players, but that offensive line is pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings, the LA Rams. It's a very underrated offensive line. When you look at the tackles, Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk, 2 good tackles. I mean, one of the best tackle tandems in the conference. So that offensive line is going to be what sustains and what drives this offense. And as long as you got Drew Brees, you got a chance. So those guys will be healthy. Remember, you have a few of them in and out of the lineup during the course of the regular season. They're going to be healthy at the beginning of the season.
One of their guards missed the NFC game against the Vikings. He got injured in the first-round game, and that was a big part of that as well.
Love what you said about having it be the first 4 weeks. That's everything we talked about with the Cowboys last year and Zeke. Get those games over with so that you can recoup and get back into it if you have to. All right, Chris, stick around. Coming up, we're going to tell you why the spotlight on Dak needs to be shifted to someone else. That's next on First Things First.
People on the set, they think that pressure is more on Dak than any other.
Here we go.
Oh, how's it going?
The moment you realize the gardening gene skipped a generation.
At Lowe's, our Grow Together planting system takes the guesswork out of creating a beautiful yard.
Shop Lowe's and get your garden growing with Bonnie vegetables and herbs, 5 for $15.
Do your thing. Be driven. Powerful. Be inspired.